Right, everyone, I'm going to tell you about the day I was kicked out of Bujinkan and why. And if you watch to the end of this video, I'm going to explain why I told Hatsumi he was wrong and whether I want your opinion in below, whether you thought I was incorrect to say this or whether you think I was correct and things would have been better if we did it my way. So let me know what you think. If you don't know who I am, I assume you know who I am because you've probably come to this knowing who I am. But if you don't, my name's Anthony Cummins and I am the producer of The Book of Ninja, and I've also did The Book of Bushido. Get yourself a copy of them and really get up to date. And there's some of the research that's helped me get to the conclusions of where samurai history is going. So anyway, let's get on. Right, if you don't know, I was thrown out of the Bujinkan, I think twice. But I'm making this video because I'm trying to get away from the old Bujinkan stuff, but I'm afraid it's never going to leave me. It's like one of those, you know, one-hit wonder pop songs. They never leave the artist for the life. I will never get away from me and the Bujinkan. So I've been asked this question by Robbie, and Robbie has been sending me emails trying to get facts on why I was thrown out of the Bujinkan and everything because he's doing a website. But every time I've emailed him back, it's email failure. So Robbie at Deco, whatever, or something promotions, it's just failing to send back, and he's now getting a bit shirty with me because I'm not answered him. I've had other people try to email him. The email account doesn't work, so I think it's the way his website is set up. It's not sending back. It's like at a website, you know, instead of Yahoo or Gmail, it's his own website email, and it's just not getting back to him. So Robert, if you've seen this, tell me. Okay, so it's about 2005, 2006, maybe to 2007, and I was still believing in the Bujinkan. I still believe that ninjutsu was hand-to-hand combat fighting and that Masaki Hatsumi was correct. Now, if you followed my research, we know that's not true, and simply there is no ninja fighting. So we're not talking about whether ninjutsu is historical anymore. I'm going to talk about the actual martial arts and the organization of the Bujinkan. Now, I watched for a year and trained for a year. So by that, I mean I was there for a year, and I went to train at Ayase, which was, or watch at Ayase, because you could publicly watch. And when I could afford it, I trained on a Sunday with it. And when you say, what do you mean you could afford it, Anthony? I specifically went to Japan to save up for my next part of my education, which was my master's degree, and I was already only going to save about 80% of what I needed, so taking more out of it was not the case. I offered to clean his dojo every week for one free lesson of an hour, and I said, you know, and I spoke to him and said, listen, you know, it's not that I don't want to give you the money, I want to give you the money, but I really can't afford it. If I go home, I won't finish my education. And instead of saying, okay, clean my dojo, because it was filthy, it was this disgusting dojo, instead of saying, okay, clean this, Anthony, you can have one free lesson, he said, no, just concentrate on your studies. I'm like, okay, that sounds very prophetic and very sort of like, you know, wisdom and all that. But at the end of the day, I was there for a year, I'm not going anywhere, and my Sundays are free. I'm like, mate, I will clean your dojo, let me just in. And in the end, he stopped me watching, so at the dojo, so I could only pay when I went to the dojo, and he didn't mind me paying, of course. He said, you can pay if you want. And so, but I asked it, it's a free public gallery, so I used to go to the free public gallery and watch him. There's nothing you can do about it, and I'd watch and I'd take notes. And this was before I realised all the problems with the Bujinkan. But as I was going through the year, I said, hold on a minute. Whether this man is good or not at martial arts, whether the martial arts is good, that's not what I'm saying. Now, I must think it's good martial arts because I was there watching it and enjoying it. And I must think there's something of value there. So don't, guys, when you start on say, how martial arts work? Hey, I was there with you. I'm there training. And I did train. And I went to train with Shoto Tanemura, yeah? And trained with him. But he was not the greatest, to be honest, of teachers. And he was actually not the best organisation. And it was a bit pretend samurai instead of actual samurai. It was too much like samurai from the movies as opposed to samurai in real life. He was trying to be too old school, but without really having the heart of an old school. So I watched the Bujinkan and I trained in the Bujinkan with Hatsumi for a year, and I was going through that year in Japan, in Noda and in Ayase and everything, and I went to everything. I went to the extra lessons, did all I could, watched when I could, and took all the notes I could, as I say, trained when I could. And there was one, and I'm going to be honest with you, there's a few things that started ticking me off. One, the number one is the no uniformity of the skills. Now, I don't mean uniformity of the techniques. The point of the Bujinkan is you create henka. You can create techniques from nothing. There's principles and there's techniques, and the Bujinkan is excellent. It's like, you've got these principles, now make a technique. But what I was finding is he didn't have any control over the principles that people were learning. They were learning all sorts of stuff. And I remember this guy coming up to me. I think I've told this bit of the story before. This guy coming up to me must have been about my age, but probably about 27 at the time. And I'd never seen him before in my life. And I was in the dojo and he went, look at that. And he showed me a piece of paper, all Japanese writing on. I went, what is it, mate? And he was like, that's the my 10th Dan recommendation. It was just, all right. So then he got passed for 10th Dan, this guy. He must have been in his 20s or early 30s. No, he weren't old. He weren't like 10th Dan material. And then Hatsumi said, get up and show us your, you know, he was a small lad as well. He said, show us some stuff. It wasn't even first Dan level. And he was like, past 10th Dan. I was like, seriously? So that was one where I was like, and then I realised people were 10th Dans around me, and you know, you just think, I'll knock you out, mate. And like, they weren't hard, and you didn't look at him and think, okay, he's got the wisdom of a 10th Dan that can pass on how to fight to other people. Even if they can't fight personally, he can pass this wisdom on. Nope, he was crap. And it was like, oh, but he had the cash. So then another one was, there was a guy, tall, big pot belly. He was a big man, but pot belly type job, and he had a pair of tabby on inside, but outdoor tabby inside, which I thought was weird. I can't quite remember. He had the long, or that maybe he had the legging cloths on, and he had a dagger, a little dagger in it, and you know, in his boot. And I remember him leaning against the wall with his hands behind his back, a bit like uncouth. And somebody went up to him and went, Sensei, and he was like some sort of, I don't know, 84th Dan of the time or something. And he was just obnoxious, and I thought, you're horrible. And he just was like dead dismissive of these people, but they were proper respectful to him. Like he was like the big shot in a local town of like 14 people that are in the local American town, and like he's the 15th Dan or something, and they were all like loving. I thought, hold on a minute, this isn't right. So it was, and the martial arts, then I remember watching this guy who did this stupidest martial arts I've ever seen in my life. And it's somebody was holding a knife to a girl's throat. And he adopted this ridiculous stance, and he went in and he decided to get in between them and then put his bum out and push her away. Like, he was like 3 meters away, and he wheeled his way in and got in and pushed her. I'm like, and Hatsumi was like, good. And then I realised something about Hatsumi. He goes, good play, good play, anything. He never says no. Like, no, that's wrong, don't do that. He doesn't. He says, yes, good play. And the next thing you know, they go and teach it. And the next thing, these people are turning up. And I'm like, hold on a minute. I've been training. Now, I've done a video about who's the greatest Bujinkan instructor in the world, and it's Dennis Bartram. And that man will be like, no. That's it. No, like, that's it. You've got it. No, you've not got it. You're like, he'll train you. And Hatsumi was like, good play, no problem. And then one of the ones I saw where he was clearly making stuff up off the top of his head, he was like, you seen the Italian waiters in their black shirts and their black waistcoats, and he said you can put shurikens on here, and you carry your tray, and you drop your tray, grab your shurikens and throw them. I was like, oh my god, just making stuff up. So there was one day I did this, I was training with a guy, and I can't remember his name, but we kept in contact for a while. And this is no joke, I'm going to be honest with you, I've told these stories in bits all over, so I'm trying to get it in one video to answer this Robbie guy, if he ever watches this video. Robbie, if you do sort your email out, it doesn't work. And it was like, I thought, I'm bored of this. And I was a bit like, okay, I'm really bored, I can do this. This is like not interesting, not new. I've been learning under Dennis, and Dennis was like, the scapula here, and the blah, 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 blah. And he was like, geez, he's trying to keep up, and he was like, you know, Thorax 7 or whatever it is they do, you know, obviously I don't know the real name, so basically it was going through all the different this, that and the other, inertia of this moving, and you can do it, but remembering his Latin terms was a bit much. And I got there and it was just like, put your bum out and do. I was like, what the hell is going on? So then basically I started doing my own stuff. Then the next one, he's like, right, next we'll play, and I thought, well, that's similar to what I've just done, almost coincidence. And right about the third go, then I clocked, because I won't watch him anymore, I was a bit bored of Hatsumi. And then I clocked he was watching me. And I'm like, so I thought, I'll just do something. And he did the same thing. Then I did something, did the same thing. And he literally was copying me. I paid him, and he was copying me. And it weren't just once, it was about 8 times. I thought, this is ridiculous. So I just let it go. And I was like, you know, it's one of them guys, you might be like, no, he wasn't, I promise you. And even the guy was training was like, well, why is he just copying you? He's run out of ideas. He was a man who was like, I've run out of ideas. And I was showing this guy stuff from Dennis Bartram, you know, not interfering with the lesson, started from the basic point. I was like doing some stuff, and the guy opposite was like, oh, how'd you do that? And what did I say? This is what we've done with Dennis Bartram. And the next thing, Hatsumi would be doing it, you know, and like, Jesus Christ. So And then he just come, and I saw a guy with goggles on, and he had goggles on and a plastic bokken, you know, like rubber foam LARPing stuff. Nothing against LARPing at all. Have good fun, enjoy your life, whatever you do. But this martial art, like, you know, the next thing, it's like kendo. It's not how you sword fight. I'm not saying kendo is bad. Kendo is wonderful. But if you sword fight like that every time, you'd last about 4 different combats and you'd be dead. The average of life expectancy of a kendo person in swordsmanship would be like about a week. Do you know what I mean? If you weren't fighting like that, oh, point, you point to you, okay, point to me. A point is death, by the way, guys. You know what I mean? You've got a wound that's probably going to infect, and you're going to start struggling, or at least you've lost an eye or a finger. You keep fighting like that, you're not going to last long. So I was watching all this Hatsumi stuff, and I'm like, right, hold on. You can just buy your belts here. There's no respect by anyone. There's no principles. Hatsumi's not teaching anything that anybody's worth anything anymore. He's just making stuff up. He was copying me when I was doing stuff just because he was bored. In the middle of the lessons, which cost about $40, $50, he was stopping so he could do free calligraphy. And by that, people were like, wow, isn't it nice giving it out free? He's not giving it out free, mate. There's 50 of you, all paying $50. Do the maths. He's earning about $5,000 or something a lesson, and he's having a break in the middle and doing something, and he's giving out, say, 10 pieces of calligraphy. He's just earned $5,000 for sitting on his bum writing with a piece of paper. Ninjutsu, guys. Ninjutsu. Use, you know, this is Kyojutsu. Kyojutsu. There we go, you know what I mean? Wow, he's so good. Why doesn't he do it after the lesson? If he's so good. Oh, no, after the lesson, gone. Off to the pub. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, come on, mate. You know what I mean? You have to be a muppet to not see this stuff. Oh, sorry, Manchester's coming out there, isn't it? Muppet, mate. So I'm like, this is daft. I don't disagree with your martial arts, but I disagree with the principles are not there. I disagree with the teaching. I disagree with everything. So I went away and I spoke to a friend of mine who was an English speaker, Japanese native English speaker. And I said, would you do me a favour? Will you write me a letter? And in this letter, which I've tried to find a copy of it. You remember, guys, I didn't expect to be Anthony Cummins writing the Bushido books and Bansenshuk. I was just like going to go home and go work in a bank somewhere or whatever, you know, and just do my job. I was like, never even thought of it. So this letter, I contacted, it was my ex-girlfriend at the time, it was my ex-girlfriend who wrote it, but she didn't come to the dojo with me the day. A friend came to the dojo with me the day, and I contacted my ex-girlfriend. She didn't have a copy either. She thought she might have had it on a laptop. It's gone. Because if I had, I would have shown you the letter. But basically, in this letter, I said, the martial arts is good. I can understand it, but it's just going out of hand. And this is where I want your opinion, guys. It's getting out of hand. People are not learning properly. The dans are all over the place. There's no unification of skill, not unification of kata, unification of skill across the board. There's none. It's just it's a farce. And a Japanese person who came with me to view it said, this is just like playing. It's playtime. Which everybody, if you're in the Budokan, we know these words. Oh, that's good. That's good. It's not. It was useless. It was not good. And so I said in this letter, I'll tell you what, Hatsumi, I said I'm going to go home and I'm going to burn my black belt and I'm going to burn my certificates and I'm going to then basically restart myself because I've learned now that, you know, this isn't the right way. And I suggest you cap all these dans. Everyone who's fifth dan, redo some courses, re-get some curriculum out there. I said, no matter whatever you do. And she said, when I finished speaking this letter, she said, this is strong. You don't do this to Japanese people. I said, well, I'm not Japanese and I'm sick of doing it the Japanese way. Let's cut the bullshit and let's get this sorted. I said, let's change the Budokan. And you know I can do it, guys. You know out there, guys, I have changed it in a different way now. I've changed it there. Nobody believes anymore. The ninjutsu, hand-to-hand combat. You don't, and you know you don't. And I changed that from my front room. And I was going to support and aid him and change it and like unify it and say, come on, even if you don't get me to, you know, you can do this. Get it sorted. This is atrocious. And I actually said, scrap everyone's grades. Fifth dan, you're a pass, but you've got to redo. I forgot exactly what I said. It was like, you've got to redo something. And I said, get this sorted. Get it in hand, because this is, even though it was actually physically starting to break down, whereas in the 80s, you got people who were really trying to go for it. And you got the McCarthys and the Bartrams and the, he's the guy from Liverpool. You know, guys who can fight, all right, and were doing it, and they had the techniques down. Suddenly, you're on fourth generation. You know, when kids, like, it's always in the 1960s, everybody stopped having, like, you know, they're all like free love and peace and drugs and everything, but they still had the Christian upbringing. But by 2023, it's just, you know, fat, you know, women with earrings, and they're just going, I'm on the benefits, and you're like, that's where we got to, you know. Instead of like cleaning your doorstep and making sure your kids are tidy, it's now like the opposite, because generation by generation it slips. And in the martial arts, a generation is about 5 years, you get a generation. So we've had multiple generations since then, like 6 or 7 generations, and it's just terrible. So you're like, okay, it's now not working, it's not working anymore. So I gave him the letter. I says, I'll be there for my last training day on Thursday. Please give me something concrete to take home and at least be inspired, because I'm not inspired by this, basically, what you're doing with this organisation. It's pants. In a very polite way, right? Oh, it's the answer. So I went in. Everybody looks at me. I was like, I'm there. I sat on a cushion and I sat there and I had my translator with me and my Japanese, and he wouldn't look at me, Hatsumi. I'm not saying he was scared or anything like that, but he was just like, no, I'm not gonna. And I was like, and I said, because get me up, give me something, because you always want to be taken up by Hatsumi and you like get the feeling and all that, and which is nonsense, by the way. You don't need that. You can do it on your own. And basically, what he did, he had this letter set up saying that in English, and it was given to me, and all these big conies like Noguchi and the other chap, and you know, the main ones who were in the middle lesson. And they were all just staring at me, and I must have been there about, the lessons are about 2 hours or something like that. I must have been there about an hour and 20 minutes, and my translator was like Anthony, and she was the friend, not the girlfriend, just a friend of did some, not charity work, but with the local, you know, information centre, because I was living there, and I went in and I did some of the events with them. I got dressed as a cow one day and went out giving out leaflets and all that, and she came with me, and she was like, Anthony, you're really not welcome, you better go. I was like, fucking. So she was like, come on. So I was like, all right then. So I just waited. I looked at him. I was like, right, okay. Noguchi grabbed my arm and walked me to. He weren't rough or anything. He was just like, showed me the door and then, out. You're out. It's like, well, that could have gone better. So basically, this is where my question to you. If Hatsumi had listened to me and used all my energy I've had in making sure getting the truth of the ninja, imagine using that energy to get in the martial arts standardized. And I don't mean standardized like karate, I mean principles standardized, with the amount of effort I've put in to correcting Japanese history. So also, I would have done the same. We would have said, okay, this is not ninjutsu, but what is it? And I'd have gone through every school, I'd pulled out everything, and I'd organized it, and I've done it in awesomeness. And even if I didn't do it, he's got the people to do that. But no. So you asked that question. Since 2004, has the and I sent this letter and I got thrown out, has the Bujinkan improved in its dissemination of correct martial arts? Or has it crashed exactly as I said it would? That was like, and I said in a few years, 10 years or whatever, I said, this is going to be a nightmare. And it is a nightmare. So what do you think? So I also then heard, after that, I then started the Book of Ninja stuff. So the ninja, like, you know, this is real ninjutsu. And then after that, I heard that I'd been banned. I don't know if this was from Hatsumi, but I just heard it went around like the martial arts people. They said, okay, Anthony Cummins has been banned from the Bujinkan. But before that happened, probably about in 2008, 2009, I can't remember exactly why, I met I was in Japan again, and I met Dennis Bartram in Japan, and we went to Hatsumi's dojo before I started the Book of Ninja and all that. And Hatsumi welcomed me back and was all right, and he started showing me stuff. And, you know, I said, you know, because I spoke to George Ohashi, or whatever he's called, I forgot his name. And he was like, yes, you can come back, Anthony, we remember you and we know, but, you know, please come back and, you know, enjoy the lesson and pay. So I did. So I came, paid with Dennis Bartram, we were there, and, you know, Hatsumi did the sort of looking at me sort of job, and I thought, you know, but no, he never took that advice, and it was only advice, and it was unsolicited advice, I understand, but, you know, when you think something should be said, say it. One of the samurai principles of Nato Ryu is, it says, don't always be saying stuff, because, you know, you get in trouble, and make sure you be careful, but, and always keep what you think back. But when it's time to speak, speak, otherwise you're a coward. So it was time to speak, and I said, that's crap. And to this day, I've been to many dojos, and people that I've asked that story, and I've told them, and they've gone, you did what? Because they all bow and scrape when you get there. So what do you think, guys? Your opinion? your opinion. Was I correct to do that? It was all done politely, but it was strongly. Should he have listened to me? Should he have not have listened to me? And Rob, I hope this answers your bloody question. Your email doesn't work, mate. Please message me and say you've got this. Now, will really help me out, guys. This is one of the newer books I've done. It's the Book of Bushido. If you haven't got a copy, this is the way of samurai understanding. This is how you learn how to be or live like a samurai. Bye from me. Bye from Bolt.